How's everyone doing today? Thank you for being here this morning. My name's John Elston, and on behalf of the UC Irvine Black Alumni chapter, I want to say thanks again for being here today. This is the second webinar in a series entitled Health and Wellness, a Black Perspective. Our subject matter today is educating ourselves to build our children's future. Health and Wellness, a Black Perspective was born out of the longtime philosophy in our communities: each generation is supposed to get better. The inaugural webinar was held 2 months ago, and the topic was COVID-19, everything you need to know. Believe me when I tell you that this webinar was phenomenal. The link for those of you who missed out will be posted in the chat. And again, I encourage everyone to go take a look at it. It was an excellent webinar put on by 4 very talented and knowledgeable UCI physicians. All webinars are taught by UCI Black alumni, and they are some of the best professionals in their respective field. These Black alumni represent a gold mine of talent, a wealth of knowledge, and it's also our way of utilizing Black professionals to share what we've learned in the hope of helping others. Our seminars are going to cover a wide array of topics and subject matter. Upcoming topics include mental health and financial literacy and home ownership. These webinars are open to students, alumni, friends, family, community members, and others, and they're free. So again, we ask you to encourage people to attend. We are bringing in some of the best professionals that anyone has, and they're volunteering their time to help educate us. Today's topic, though, under Health and Wellness, a Black Perspective, is simply educating ourselves to build our children's future. A lot of discussion continues to occur daily about the education of our children, particularly under the auspices of COVID-19. Our esteemed panelists today represent over 150 years of experience in the field of education, so we're going to get right to them. But before we begin, I want to say thanks to all the folks that make this possible. Wendy Day Brown, who had to leave this morning, but she is our representative from the UCI Alumni Association, the UCI Black Alumni Chapter Board, and there are 12 members there. And as we say, we represent everything from typewriters, peachy folders, and 8-tracks, for those of us that are a little older, to Google Docs, Stay Woke, and Instagram, for those of us who are not a little older. So we want to say thank you to the board for all your support and help. Finally, our panelists today. Again, as I said earlier, these are more of the best that UC Irvine has to offer. Thank you for your time, your commitment. We truly appreciate you all. And last but not least, there are 2 very talented women that are UCI alums that make this happen. The first lady represents UCI class of 2004. She has a bachelor's in sociology, and she also has an MBA. She is a marketing professional, and she is our host for the day. Please welcome Ms. Sandra Rosenfeld. The second lady represents UCI class of 1995. She is a bachelor in political science. She is a master's in public administration. She is an associate director of facilities, and she's going to be giving us all the logistics and information we need to know. Please welcome, and I'll turn it over to Miss Arnesia Bryant. Arnesia.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, John. Today I'm going to go over logistics and just let you know what we will be doing. We'll be asking each and every one of you that has a question to put it in the Q&A section. Is everyone able to see the Q&A section? I'm hoping that you all are able to see that. Just place your questions in there. Throughout this presentation, you will be muted. And during the time of all of the questions and answers, our panelists will be assigned those questions and answers. Our moderator will be ensuring that those questions get answered by each of the panelists per their particular area of expertise. We also will be having a game at the end, so pay attention, write down information, be aware, because you will be able to win a gift card For $25, we will have 3 winners. So please be sure to pay attention. At the end, we will have a game that you will be eligible to participate in. And last but not least, we ask that you contribute. Please give the panelists your undivided. And if you have any questions or if you want to post in the chat, feel free to do so. We thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to a great panel discussion. Next, we will have up Sandra Rosenfeld, who will begin with the introduction of our panelists.
Thanks, Arnesia, and thank you again to everyone that is here. Thank you for the warm intro, John. I'm just really excited for this conversation. I know I say that a lot, but I really do mean it, because I'm just so glad that we have this opportunity to bring in Black excellence for this conversation. And so as I go through this, as I go through some of the introductions, you'll see why in just a moment. But before I do that, I do want to share with you all just a few just sort of opening remarks as we think about education. And so we know that in order for our children to be successful in school, we know that the parents and families need to be actively involved in their learning. And not only just be involved early on, but stay involved throughout the school year. And so we know that just with recent reports that have been shared from the National Center for Education Statistics, also known as NCES, they reported through the condition of education. It paints a picture about the state of education for Black students, showing that unfortunately for Black students, there's a disproportionately lower rates when it comes to graduation. However, there are higher rates of how many of our students are being disciplined or placed in special education programs. However, as a community, as parents, as family members who care about the children in our lives, the children in our families and our neighborhoods, we can do something about it. According to the U.S. Department of Education, what a family does is more important to a child's school success than how much money the family makes or how much education the parents have. By showing interest in the children's education, parents and families can spark enthusiasm and lead them to an important understanding that learning can be enjoyable as well as rewarding and is well worth the effort. Also, the U.S. Department of Education shared in studies that successful schools report that parent involvement is a major factor in the outcomes of their students, which can help close the achievement gap between the various groups of students. So I say all that to say that you of all that are here on this call, you can make a difference. You can help the young people in your family, in your neighborhoods have a strong start and prepare for college and for their careers. So if you become an active participant and really think about all the different ways that you can be a force, can really be helpful to the students in your lives, you can help them lead to graduation and to success, to perceive their passions and their careers in their lives. So without further ado, we are going to continue on. I'd like to share this disclaimer with everyone just to give you all a sense as to what we want to set the stage in terms of how we want to present this information. So while we have sought to provide you with valuable, updated, and relevant information, the content of this UCI Black Alumni Chapter and Health and Wellness webinar is not intended to constitute legal or other professional advice on any subject matter. This information is intended to be for informational and educational purposes only. Some of the information we share may lead to sources that are operated and maintained by third parties. We are providing this information solely as a convenience, and the presence of such information does not imply any responsibility for the linked source or an endorsement of the linked site and its operators or its content. So with that, I'm going to move right into introducing our brilliant panel here today. So First, we have Ebony Bro. Ebony Bro found her passion for education while she was a student at UCI. After finding it challenging to navigate college, search for a job, and apply to graduate school, as a first-generation college student, Ebony began to seek out opportunities to support others in the same ways that she needed to be supported. Choosing where to apply, writing a personal statement, and navigating the college application process. She has served as a Teach for America course member, college advisor, and a founding director of college counseling, always striving to support others in reaching their goals. She recently earned her master's degree in higher education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and currently works to recruit leaders for universities and nonprofit organizations. Welcome, Ebony. Next, we have Quentin Brown. Quentin Brown's areas of expertise are educational leadership and business performance success. He is committed to overall student achievement, whole child development, and responsible citizenry. He believes that all students should be held to high expectations with all the proper support systems along the way. Quentin began his career in education with the Long Beach Unified School District, where he was a mathematics instructor for 10 years and was a head coach of a boys varsity basketball team for 8 years. Quentin later entered administrative leadership as a dean of students, then later promoted to assistant principal, then later to principal. For about 4 years, Quentin was named to the school district's Male Academy program as director. And Mr. Brown recently retired in June 2020 after 30 years of service. Prior to his career in education, Quentin had a distinguished career in the private sector, where he worked as a tax accountant. Quentin also held leadership positions at Arthur Andersen, Burlington Air Express, and Transamerica Financial Services. Quentin holds a bachelor's degree in social sciences from UC Irvine, an MBA from Cal State Poly, Pomona, a teaching credential from Chapman University, and administrative services credentials from Cal State Dominguez Hills and UC Irvine. Welcome, Quentin. Next, we have Dr. Benisha Carr. Dr. Benisha Carr has been an educator for 18 years with experience at both the primary and secondary levels. She was a classroom teacher for 10 years and holds multiple subject and single subject science credentials. Dr. Carr eventually was called into administration, where she went from dean of students to assistant principal and is now a K-12 principal with 8 years of administrative experience. She's an advocate for positive behavior interventions and supports, restorative justice, growth mindset, and cultural responsiveness strategies to decrease disproportionality and suspension rates. In 2017 and in 2021, she was named Administrator of the Year by the Association of California School Administrators for her work with transforming schools and her dedicated servant leadership. She is passionate about serving the community and is a member of many organizations, such as the National Council for Negro Women and the NAACP. She is a chapter president of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, which serves the San Bernardino County area. Dr. Carr received her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of California, Irvine. Additionally, she holds a Master's of Arts in Education Leadership from Azusa Pacific University, a Master's in Education and Doctorate of Education Organization Leadership from University of Laverne in California. So welcome, Dr. Carr. Next, we have Ingrid Cooks Johnson. She is the Executive Director, President, and co-founder of the Council of AfricanAmerican Parents. This nonprofit is driven by determined parents and a supportive community and corporate partners. KIPP is dedicated to enhancing the educational opportunity of students through highly competitive academics, social development, and cultural awareness. The result of her efforts spanning nearly 30 years has culminated in over 7,500 African-American students attending institutions of higher learning, ranging from Ivy Leagues to UCs and HBCUs. In addition, she serves as the CEO and Executive Director of Knowledge is Power College Tours and is the co-chair of the Legacy Roundtable Collaborative Summer Mathematics Academy. Ms. Cooks Johnson graduated from UC Irvine, specifically from the School of Social Ecology with a public planning and policy emphasis, and is a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. On a personal note, Ingrid is a proud mother of 3 college-educated adult children and grandmother of 7. It is her grandchildren who serve as her source of inspiration to improve the educational outcomes for African-American children. Welcome, Ingrid. Dr. Elton Lyman is next. And he is an educator in the secondary, public, and adult school and university levels for more than 30 years. His teaching career includes stints with Compton, Los Angeles, Norwalk, La Mirada, and Inglewood Unified School Districts. During his teaching career, he has taught social sciences on the secondary level, high school algebra, and adult school ESL classes. Dr. Lynham has served as an adjunct professor of teacher education courses for National University, Cal State Dominguez Hills, as well as served as a dissertation mentor lecturer at the University of Phoenix. In addition to that, he has worked in several roles such as administrator, nonprofit foundation director, and athletics coach. Dr. Lynham possesses a bachelor's degree from UC Irvine in Humanities, 2 master's degrees, education administration and public administration. Along with that, he has a doctorate degree in educational leadership from Argosy University. Welcome, Dr. Lynham. Last but certainly not least, we have Lanisha Webb. She currently serves as a director of KIPP through college, which is also known as KTC, at KIPP SoCal Public Schools. The KTC program provides meaningful support to nearly 7,000 students and alumni as they prepare for and select the right college and career based on their interests. As a first-generation college graduate driven by her experiences, Lanisha's passion is rooted in addressing historical disparities and social justice in education. She has worked at KIPP for 9 years and is a founding teammate of KIPP through college program in her region. Lanisha earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology and Social Behavior from the University of California, Irvine, and a Master's of Education in School Counseling and a Pupil Personnel Services credential from USC. She is a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Welcome, Lanisha. So, folks, when I tell you we have Black excellence in the room, I was not kidding. I had to read all of that. So you can see the receipts, you can see their background, you can understand the kind of expertise that we are bringing into the room to have this very important conversation. So before we begin with our panelists, I know that what's top of mind for everyone in the room is all about COVID-19. As John mentioned earlier, we had a webinar recently, and it was fantastic. We went right into all the details about this disease, its effects, and what we can do to protect ourselves and prevent this disease affecting us or our family members. But from the point perspective in terms of our schools, we don't have anyone to specifically talk about all the details of that, but we did want to share a few things, some news, some updates with you all, as you can see on the screen, to help you get a sense as to what the schools are doing about it. So as you can see, the CDC recommends that there's indoor masking for everyone that goes onto a school campus, from students to staff to teachers, even visitors, regardless of your vaccination status. On August 12th, Governor Newsom announced that all California school teachers and staff need to submit proof of vaccination or submit to weekly testing. So this will take effect, that has taken effect August 12th, and the staff have until about mid-October to be compliant. So we ask that you continue to do your research in terms of what type of protocols will be in place for your child's school or within your local school district. And as you can see on the screen, we have some links of places where you can get started on doing that research, along with a link to the webinar video where you can watch and learn more about COVID-19. And as always, don't forget, please wash your hands and wear a mask. So with that said, I am going to turn it over to our first panelist here. Which will be Benisha, and she will talk to us today about the different types of learning environments. So Benisha, take it away.
Greetings and thank you to the Black Alumni Board for having me today. And then also Just to get started, I will be talking about in-person versus distance learning. I am currently a principal of a K-12 virtual independent study school, as well as a continuation high school. So right now I do have both sides of the coin, with the continuation high school being in person with COVID guidelines and the virtual independent study school. So first and foremost, I would like to say that with distance learning, it will look different in different districts and different areas. So as stated before, please check with your local area for what their policies, protocols, and guidelines. There is certain set guidelines for independent study, but the local ELA district and or charter school may have different ways that they conduct their program. So just to get started, homeschool. We have homeschool and independent study are ways for distance learning. And with homeschool, that's where the parent or guardian is the principal and teacher. You can go to the CDE website and file to be your own school with homeschool. You also have homeschool and independent study that is through a local school district. So my school currently has K through 12. Our K-5 is an independent study with a homeschool model in which parents and teachers work together, where the parent or guardian or a designated adult is facilitating instruction in the home. And then our 6-12 is independent study. They are given work to do on a daily basis in which they are to complete and turn in. For K through 12, there is a designated teacher that is credentialed. However, the heavy lifting for this particular program is through a virtual online platform. And this is where you may find differentiation. You have some schools in school districts in which they create their own content. So it's paper, pencil, or it may be through Google Classroom. And then others go to outside vendors like Edgenuity, Apex, GradPoint, and or Acellus, to name a few. You also have traditional independent study versus course-based. Most districts use the traditional, in which you would be able to receive work. You have so many days to complete the work and then turn in the work. Per AB 130, which went into effect July 2021, there has been some additions to independent study guidelines, which includes having synchronous time for K-3 daily. For grades 4 through 8, you have weekly synchronous time as well as daily live interaction time, and then weekly synchronous time for grades 9 through 12. And so for the disclaimer, the state was very broad on how that looks. So when it says synchronous time, that could be two-way communication. It could be one-on-one in a virtual setting, one-on-one in person. It could also be small group, or it could be a lesson, which is why it is very, very important when you look at independent study and distant learning, you look at or do your research of what's being offered. You also have hybrid or blended. During the pandemic, especially with the 2020-2021 school year, the terms were interchangeable. Some independent study programs are fully independent, where everything is done in the home. Or you could have a blended independent study program where it may be virtual, where it is synchronous and asynchronous. And synchronous time is when you're with a teacher and your student is coming in on a screen and doing a lesson with them. And then asynchronous is the work that they do independently. And that's just a broad definition. And with blended, especially for high school, please be conscientious of A through G and NCAA regulations. For science courses, essentially, you may need to have a blended. So with caution with COVID, lab sciences are A through G. And for the UC system, you do need to have and meet A through G requirements. And therefore, an independent study program, although you would like to be at home to be safe from COVID, they may require that you come in for science labs while everything else is done virtually. And I know my time is up because I said, and so just pros and cons. Just know there's more flexibility with independent study. And then you also have, sorry, I timed myself. You do have more flexibility with independent study, but it is that intrinsic motivation for the student to be able to learn on their own. And so know your child and know if it's a proper placement for them to take a distance learning educational environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I hope you all took notes on that and just are aware that because not only because of COVID and everything else that's happening, there are a lot of changes that are going on within the educational system in terms of how kids are going to be learning, how they're going to be taught. So it's really, really important that you keep a track of it all as you're thinking about the students that you're working with and the children that you have, and thinking about the best options that are out there that are available for you. So thank you again for that, for Dr. Carr. So next, we will have Lanisha talk to us about the different types of schools that are available. As you may all be thinking about, should I put my child in private school, public school, or charter school? What does it all mean? Pros, cons, all of that. So please, Lanisha, take it away.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm also going to time myself to make sure that I stay within the time. Good morning, everyone. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be able to speak to you all. Thank you to the Black Alumni Association for inviting me. So I'm going to jump right on into it. So Sandra had the opportunity to talk to you all about the charter management organization that I work with, which is called KIPP SoCal Public Schools. Within KIPP SoCal Public Schools, we have a support program called the KIPP Through College program. Sandra, feel free to move to the next slide. Within our KIPP Through College program, we are supporting our students on their path all the way to and through. So we start working with our students as early as 7th grade. Also a note about KIPP SoCal Public Schools, we only operate K through 8th grade. So we do not have a high school, and we are primarily based in South and East Los Angeles. And just within the last 2 years, we started to expand ourselves all the way down to San Diego. So we have one middle school that's located in San Diego. But I always like to emphasize that we do not have a high school, and that's why this KIPP Through College program is so instrumental in supporting our students. So again, back to what I was saying, is we start working with our students as early as 7th grade, preparing them for the high school process. I can remember way back when I was getting ready to go to high school and how stressed out my mom was with like figuring out, there's so many high schools in LA, I don't know where to send you, but I want to make sure that you're going to a school that's going to meet your needs, and also you're getting that rigorous education that she wanted me to have. So that's what we're doing. We're sitting down individually with students and parents, really helping them scope out and figure out what their high school options are. Once our kids get into high school, we're going into their high schools, providing support to them on everything that has to do with college access, just making sure they're exploring college options, and then supporting them with the college application process. And then once our students get to college, we're still there. So KIPP is supporting them all the way through. So we work with our students when they're in college, helping them with college matriculation, enrolling in college, as well as persisting, making sure that they're taking advantage of all the resources that are offered to them to really support them with graduating from college and then helping them enter their career of choice. Next slide. So I'm here to talk about high school options. I'm going to keep it, make sure I stay again within my time frame. So next slide, please. So again, one of our programs that we're supporting students with is high school options. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the various high school options really, really quickly. So we have our public schools. So first area around public schools is your traditional public school. So things about traditional public schools is, school size can range between, 2,000 and plus. You have to live within the district boundaries. So for us in KIPP SoCal Public Schools, a majority of our schools are authorized by LAUSD. And then again, based on where you live, you have a school that you're assigned to. With traditional public schools, no GPA is required. From there, you have magnet schools. And so magnet schools are public schools. They have a specific area of focus. It can range all the way from medicine to performing arts, Again, I'm specifically talking about LAUSD. For magnet schools, you do have to live within the LAUSD boundaries. They have a point system, and that's how they utilize that to decide who's going to be admitted. So for example, if you live really close to this magnet school, you're assigned a point. If you have a sibling that is attending that school, you're assigned an additional point. And then for magnet schools, no GPA is required. So an example of a magnet school is King Drew Medical Magnet. And then there are specialized schools, and these schools particularly have a specialized curriculum. The biggest difference between the magnet and the specialized school is that there is an individual school application process. So the high school is actually deciding who's being admitted to that school. You do still have to live within the boundaries of the actual school, and GPA may be considered for admissions. That is the public schools. Next slide, please. And then we have our charter schools. And so charter schools have one notion that folks think about charter schools is that charter schools are picking who they want to attend their particular schools. Speaking for KIPP SoCal, we are not handpicking students. It is an open enrollment school. It is free for students to attend. We do not charge. There's no tuition of no sort for a student to be able to attend a charter school. Biggest difference is that, with charter schools, they are able to do more fundraising, but they do receive money. They do receive state and federal funding as well. That is my time. I'm gonna go really quickly, Sandra. So again, my last slide I wanted to share you all is around private schools. So we have our religious, our independent boarding schools. These schools have extensive application processes. Students do have to take admission exams. Financial aid is available for students to be able to attend private schools. So during the panel, I'll be more than welcome to take questions. Last slide, I just wanted to highlight really quickly as it relates to just supporting your child with finding their best fit. There's a lot of various factors that one should be considering, such as location, school size. Does my child thrive more in a small environment versus a large environment? Do they have extracurriculars? Maybe my child want to play football. Maybe they really want to be a lawyer. And then also particularly focusing on the academics as well. That is my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Lanisha. I knew you had just a short amount of time, but you covered a lot in that time. So thank you for that. And again, to the audience, I hope you were able to capture some of the things that were shared. And I feel like I learned something about charter schools because I was under the impression, and it could just be something that I saw posted in social media, where charter schools actually pick students, right? Because I am thinking that, okay, they can be very selective in terms of who can attend their school. So thank you for dispelling that myth, because I thought that was actual fact. And I appreciate that reminder that you told us about preparing for college starts early. So if you're trying to think that waiting till 11th grade or 12th grade, in some cases that may be too late. So the earlier that we start with our kids, the better. So thank you for sharing that. And so with that said, that will lead us to a nice little segue over to Ingrid, who will talk to us about one of the organizations that are out there in the community that can help our students, college prep and the college admissions process. So Ingrid, please take it away.
Thank you. I believe that children are our future, and we need to treat them and teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Greetings and good morning. And thank you to the Black Alumni Board for having me. I'm an alumni of the class of 1981, and I am also the co-founder and president of the Council of African-American Parents, affectionately known as KIPP. I chose those words to open up my presentation because it epitomizes KIPP's core beliefs of teaching and maximizing resources. For nearly 30 years, KIPP has served as a resource for countless families, and we have looked for ways to navigate school systems, family structures, cultural and political opportunities for their children and social engagement. And I wanted to give a couple of opportunities to talk about. Since we only have 5 minutes, I just wanted to quickly point to parents and whoever's on the line about 3 tutorial programs that I think are really good, especially in this COVID environment, to help you with your children, especially if they struggle in math. One was Khan Academy. The other one is Patrick JMT, that's Patrick Just Math Tutoring. And another one is Wyzent. And Wyzent is a way you put in your zip code and it will locate a tutor for whatever area you're looking for. If you're looking for a social science tutor, English, math, whatever subject area, they will find a tutor in your area, and you can barter with them for the cost and how much you want to pay. If they come to your house, you meet at a Starbucks, you meet at the school site, wherever you meet, they will come and meet you there. It does take a village to raise a child. And I do want to say that resources do matter, Black excellence matters, and our children's future matters. And I employ you to go to the Council of African American Parents website, and you can see that we have nearly 100% college going rate of students who enter high school, graduate from high school and enter college for the first time. They all graduate. We have a very excellent opportunity for kids to network with each other, bond with each other, and also learn about their cultural history, because we feel that our kids go to these schools and a lot of times they're very brilliant, but they leave broken because they don't know their history and they don't know whose shoulders they stand on. So we say, bring that cultural piece in, and it will strengthen our kids and how they navigate these systems, because a lot of times the educational system is not fair, and it's not a lot of equality for our students at different schools. So I would say, that would be my spiel. Check out our website and please ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. It pretty much shows that just hearing about the successes of your program, that the resources are out there. There are no excuses, right? So there's definitely ways, there's opportunities for us to tap into all the information that's out there to help parents who are trying to figure out how to best support their children. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for having me.
And so if anyone has any particular questions about KIPP or any of the other resources that were mentioned, please post it in the, please let us know in the Q&A, and we'll try and answer it during that portion of the presentation. So next, continuing this conversation about college admissions prep and giving you specific tips and advice around this area, we are going to have Ebony talk us through that. So Ebony, please take it away.
Great, thank you. So yes, this is a perfect segue. I'll kind of be building on what Ingrid and Lanisha both shared. And just to start, I took notes on what Lanisha said, because a few things that she said really apply to what I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the college admissions process and also how to start thinking about preparing your students for college, whatever age they are. So Lanisha, one thing that she said was, it's important to think about a best fit when you're applying to high school, and the same thing applies to college. You want to help your students think about, do they thrive in a small school or a large school, somewhere close to home or far from home? Do they need certain activities to be on campus? So that was just something that I kind of noted. And also that it's never too early to start preparing. So I'll start by just talking about the college admissions process. And while this process, it kind of, you put, pen to paper senior year in high school as a 12th grader, it starts much earlier than that. And so I'll start with during your senior year, when a student is in 12th grade and starting to apply for college, typically they'll start working on their applications sometime August to December. Typically the UCs and Cal States are due in November. Other private schools might be due in December or January, or sometimes even later than that. But what goes into the application, students are inputting their academic history. So they're inputting their grades. They're looking at GPA and grades, test scores, and this is with an asterisk. Different colleges are kind of looking at test scores a little bit differently, especially given that this past year, not everyone had access to different tests. But some colleges do use SAT or ACT scores, SAT subject scores, which are subset tests based on students can pick a subject like chemistry or Spanish or something like that. Also AP and IB scores if that's available. So you'll want to look for the different colleges that your student is applying to, but those colleges may be looking at that. Personal statements or personal insight questions. So students will be able to share a little bit about themselves and give the college a sense of who they are and where they come from. Extracurricular activities, so what students are involved in. And that can include family responsibilities as well. So if a student is in sports and dance and music, if they take on a leadership role in their family, taking care of siblings, all of that goes into their application package. Some colleges use recommendations, so from counselors and from teachers and from people, adults that know the student well. All of that goes into the college application, and then later on in the year, a financial aid application comes. So this is just very brief, but just want you to know kind of what's coming. And so knowing all of that, I want to go back and talk about how you can start to prepare your students and your family for this process. So if you have a kid who's in elementary school or younger, I would say, and Sandra mentioned this earlier, really the most important thing is developing a love for learning. And to the extent that you can, normalize reading for fun, normalize projects, normalize kind of exploring passions and just being involved, and also normalize different types of colleges as an option. Normalize going to community colleges, normalize going to big publics like UCI, or to small private schools like University of Redlands or Claremont McKenna. As much as you can, as early as you can, start getting your kids on different campuses to feel what those feel like. Once your student gets into middle school, continue to foster that love of learning, celebrate school, celebrate their accomplishments, like have an understanding of what's happening in school. Continue to normalize college and different kinds of colleges. And if you can, try to join an outreach program. So maybe it's KIPP or maybe it's another program, but a program that allows students to be with other students who are also interested in college and possibly get on some college campuses on college tours. And if not already, encourage your student to try extracurricular activities. They can bounce around. It's okay if they don't like basketball and want to move to tennis or something, but encourage them to put themselves out there. Once you get into high school, for freshmen and sophomores, continue to do the things we already built upon. And here you'll want to get more serious about those extracurricular activities. You know, hopefully students can commit to one or two and really focus on those, and ones that they love. You know, we want them to enjoy it. Also talk to your counselor once you get into high school. It's never too early to talk to your counselor. So this is broad information. Talk to your counselor at school about more specifics, and also start to explore career options. So have your students shadow people who you know at work. If you know someone who's an accountant, maybe they don't know what accounting is, but maybe they can talk to them and go shadow them at work. So really encourage exploring a lot of different fields. And then once students get to junior and senior year, continue to build upon all of this. Visit even more colleges if you can. If you're taking a family vacation, a family reunion, stop at a college on the way, see what a college is like. And I have family in Texas, see what college is like in Texas, what the different options are. If your student is interested, have them join leadership positions in their extracurriculars, start to narrow down the colleges they're interested in. So maybe they've determined, okay, I really want a small school. UCI is too big for me. So have them narrow that down, and then continue to be in touch with your counselor. I will turn it back.
Right. That was right on time. Oh, great. Thank you so much. You shared a lot, but you shared a lot of good information. And I just want to reiterate some of the things that you said, especially when it comes to test scores, because I have noticed that just seeing in the news that a lot of schools, as you said, they've made some concessions as to what tests they're willing to accept. I know some schools are saying, hey, don't even worry about tests right now. We just want to see what courses you were enrolled in and how you performed. Some are saying, hey, just you can do pass, no pass when it comes to grades. Hey, don't even worry about AP exams right now. We won't heavily factor that into the process as before. So it's really going to depend on the colleges that your child is interested in. So I appreciate you sharing that. And also, more importantly, normalize this process early. I really liked that, because in just thinking about, you can't just say, okay, we want you to go to college, and then there's nothing being done to support your child. Like bring them to the college tours, like Ingrid mentioned, you know, because she has that program. Programs like that, get your kids involved early. And if they tell you, hey, I want to be an astronaut, all right, let's learn about NASA. Let's see what that process looks like, right? Expose them. Even if you don't know anyone in your community, in your family that has those particular roles that your kid's interested in, figure out a way to get that research online, because we have the World Wide Web to help us with that. So thank you again for that. So without further ado, we are going to pivot away from this whole college admissions process talk and figuring out what does that look like, because I feel like that should just be a whole session in of itself. But with that said, I don't know about you all, you probably have heard about this phrase, critical race theory, right? We've heard about this, right? It was all over CNN, I think about a month ago. And it was just all the rage. And they're still talking about it now, but nonetheless, it just felt like it kind of exploded on the scene. And now it's become this really important thing that people are concerned about in terms of how does this affect the schools and the curriculum for our children. So we are going to have Elton talk to us about that and what does this mean for us. So Elton, please take it away.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you. And I have a very difficult topic, as was put earlier, that is very pertinent in news right now. So if we can have the first slide, I'm going to attempt to go through it in just 5 minutes. Next slide, please. Okay, first we can start with I know you've heard of the 1619 Project, which documents the consequences of slavery and its after effects. It regained prominence 2 years ago, 2019, with the 400th year anniversary commemorating the first arrival of slaves in Virginia. Nicole Hannah-Jones, writer, her literacy project brought awareness to the plight of African Americans post-slavery. She won a Pulitzer Prize for her project, but she had many detractors. They petitioned the New York Times to alter the work, and the New York Times refused. She was positioned to be offered a full tenure position at the University of North Carolina, but the university switched the offer, and she believed that a conservative group was behind that action. However, she did accept a chair position at Howard University, so that was a great thing. In terms of critical thinking, critical race theory, it's a product of the civil rights and cultural revivals of the 1960s. Basically, it focused on writers from Frederick Douglass, MLK, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, W.E.B. Du Bois, and mainly Derrick Bell, who was the first Black law school faculty at Harvard University, a professor and a civil rights activist. Basic notions that racism is an essential element of American culture. White over Black involves not only material societal relations, but also an immense ideology presence in society, according to Bell. Another writer, Malik Simba from the Black Post, says racism, copying on Bell, racism is a social construct. Critical race theory has no national curriculum or practice curriculum, so let you know that. Most of the opposition to this, it's been very political, as you can imagine. Ted Cruz, senator from Texas, says CRT states that every white person is a racist. Chris Pringle, rep from Alabama, says it teaches certain children that they are inherently bad because of the color of their skin. The evangelist Pat Robertson says CRT is a monstrous evil. You can see how politically it's lining up. There are several states that have introduced bills outlining what they consider CRT. It all started basically with a failed politician, who basically went on Fox News to complain about a federal training, which they were training implicit bias, anti-racist thinking. So the President 45 got hold of that and tried to pass a law against any kind of training such as that, and it was struck down in the courts. The guy from January 6th, Senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, you guys may remember the guy that was raising a fist. He believes that the 1619 project is a lie, and it divides Americans apart. he made this statement in the New York Post. And there was a sister down in Florida, Keisha King, who complained that her child was being separated in a meeting, an assembly, and they were separated by gender and race. But, you know, if you're an educator, you know, assemblies have different themes. So it could have been a sexual education type of situation or numerous. Most of the proponents are basically attacking it as it's a culture war. Ibam Kendi believes that U.S. is in a culture war over race and racism. Basically, we need to teach equity because, you know, there's a home ownership crisis where 71% of white homes are occupied, owner occupied, as compared to 41% of Blacks. Teachers vow to fight against anti-CRT efforts, and some have signed petitions. Some teachers feel they may have to lie about U.S. history. There's a Zen project that works with nonprofits that are attacking their critical race theory and the issue of reparations. I got to speed up here. Civil rights, you know, the 1964 ensures equity, social advancement, societal advancements, and equity. Multicultural education was geared to kind of break this up. Teachers have to learn multicultural education before they go into certain areas that they're not familiar with. States, this is a very important point. States, certain states, well, all states have the right to teach. You know, they can control what their schools teach. There's federal legislation that gives the federal government particular rights to implement, like school lunch, Educational and Secondary Educational Act, Common Core, No Child Left Behind. That's in crisis situations. So what you can do, post-secondary education, professors have freedom, according to, in 1967, Supreme Court allowed freedom of expression amongst college professors. So partnerships with teachers and unions, they know all the rights as it pertains to teaching and what your children can be exposed to. And know your rights, stay informed, check with your local state education current events, check with your local schools and school districts, you go to school board meetings, and subscribe and follow culturally relative media.
Hi. All right. I know you got a lot.
5 minutes is not fair.
I know. That could be another webinar too. I know. But the information you shared in that brief amount of time, I think is enough to get us started to not only understand what is CRT and how this could impact our children and what we could be doing moving forward. So, because in just thinking about the critical race theory, this is not just, okay, they're just kind of changing the way they talk about history. In a lot of ways, this can just have huge detrimental impact to our children in terms of how they learn, what they learn, more importantly, right? Because it's some information, it may not just be, okay, they learn about slavery for just one day out of the whole time they're learning about history, but the way slavery is presented. Another important points in history, the way that is presented, it may not be presented anymore, or the way the story is told is now different. And so in a lot of ways, this could be a huge, huge impact to our children. So thank you for sharing that.
Extremely huge.
Yes, it is. If anyone has any questions, follow-up questions, just go ahead and put in the Q&A part of this webinar, and then we'll see if we have time to be able to answer that. But thanks again, Elton. So with that said, last but certainly not least, we are going to talk about resources and some advice in terms of how parents can then support their children when it comes to mental health, when it comes to how to be an advocate for your child in the classroom and in the schools. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Quentin to take on that this conversation. So Quentin, please take it away.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Glad to be on such an esteemed panel. And as a retired educator, I know that we're in excellent hands. Our children are in excellent hands. So I've learned so much in these last few minutes. So thank you all for that. let's go to the first slide. When we talk about mental health and being an advocate, I thought it would be appropriate to start off with just kind of a brief definition, and make sure you write these down or remember them because you'll see them in a few minutes. So when we talk about mental health, and mental health is pretty much just a person's condition regarding their psychological and emotional well-being. Okay, and we know during this whole COVID crisis, our students have been under tremendous amount of stress, along with their parents, trying to figure out, how do I teach my child effectively at home? And now they're going to go back into the classroom, so that's stress. It works on your psychological and emotional well-being. So that's a huge task for our students and our staff and our parents. And when we talk about being an advocate, it's just someone who's there to talk on behalf of someone who can support the student and also the parent, and make sure that they're getting the right proper tools to deal with COVID. So next slide. In the interest of time, oh, that's the next slide. Okay, thank you. All right, let's talk about being an advocate for your child at school. And the most important thing is to make sure that you are actively engaged in your child's learning on a day-to-day basis. You want to make sure that you build these strong, positive relationships with school staff. And I call them stakeholders. And in parentheses, I'm talking about make sure you know the teachers, the counselors, even the classified staff. And people say you need to know the administrators, but I put administrators on the far end because I think the teachers and the counselors and the classified staff are the core support for students after school. And you want to start this relationship building early in the school year. Don't wait until, wait till someone calls you about it, your student, or, get involved early and start that early on in the process. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because as a former principal, people would always tell me, well, I'm so afraid to come up and talk to you because I know you have a million things on your mind, but don't let that stop you. Ask the principals, ask the counselors, ask questions for clarity, because I think that sometimes when your students share the information with parents, it's a little fractured. So get involved with all the stakeholders. Make sure that you use all your contact avenues strategically and effectively. And I say that because you don't want to always call on the telephone. You don't want to always email. And now you have the social media contact. Just use those effectively to where you don't burden them with lots of messages. Be clear in your first contact so that you can establish those relationships. And I would say, make sure you get involved in the school community, the PTA. At some districts, you can be on district and school parent committees. And also, I think that it's very important that you have your student get involved in the schools, as they stated earlier. And most schools have student advisory committees, which helps run the governance of the school. So I would say definitely get involved in that, because it will help on your college application for leadership, et cetera. And stay on top of grades and your attendance. And the nice thing with all this modern technology, you can go on your phone and you can track your students' grades on a day-to-day basis. And if you see something that's not appropriate, that's the time to talk about it and not wait until it's time for transcript time for college. Okay, so just get involved, be active, be engaged, just be there for your child. Next slide. And mental health resources, I'm not going to read this for the interest of time, because I think the power of this will be with our Q&A. So these are just some mental health resources that are available as we make this transition from hybrid in-home learning, hybrid learning, where you go back and forth between school and home, to actually some schools are having full class sessions that are actually on site. So these are just some resources to help deal with that, because I know we all have had some type of stress or emotional discourse over the last year and a half with COVID. So take these into consideration and feel free to reach out to them, because they're very powerful organizations. And that's about my time. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Quentin. This was some very, very good information. And just in thinking about what you said, and it just leads me to think about the overall theme that I've been hearing from everyone today: start early. I keep hearing that phrase come up in different ways. Just start early building positive relationships with the teachers and staff. You don't want to be in the position where you go to a PTA meeting, or even more specifically, you go into that parent teacher night, and now your teacher is telling you about your child. Well, your son or daughter is not doing well, or you know what, your son or daughter is actually excelling, and you're surprised by this. This should not be a surprise. You should already have been having these conversations with your child, with the teacher, understanding what is that journey looking like for them, how they're doing well, how they're performing, and how you can help them excel. And just being mindful of building those positive relationships. There may be something happening. It doesn't mean that you can just think, okay, you know what, I'm going to tell them how I feel in choice words. You shouldn't be engaging in that type of behavior, and just really thinking about how can I best support my child and what can I do to do that. So thank you all so much. I know you had a very limited time to be able to talk about some really big subjects, but nonetheless, we knew that it would be a limited time because we just wanted to at least start the conversation and get people to be aware as to where they can start and where to begin. So thank you all once again for that. So with that said, we are going to move into the next portion of our webinar. Let's see here. Let's see. All right. So with that said, we are going to go right into Q&A. So I know that we had some questions coming in. If you have any questions that came into that, if you think of any questions now, please, there is time, please go ahead and post them now in the chat. So with that, as we are getting going, we've already received a few. So the first question that we have is for Mr. Brown. So when it comes to mental health, what would you say are the signs that we should look for in a child who is struggling with their mental health, or maybe even has suicidal thoughts? Or you may think that the student may be at risk. What can the parent or caregiver or guardian at the time, what can they do about that? You are muted. We cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. The first thing that they tell us about someone who's struggling is when you see your child or your student or anyone sort of become distant. And by distance, I mean, if they're typically a talker and now they're not talking, or if there's someone who typically, comes into the room and has dinner with you at night, and you don't see that happening, or the grades, there's a drop in grades, the attendance suffers, or if you see some type of substance abuse, if they're starting to drink or to do drugs, those are all signs of mental health issues, and that someone's struggling with their emotional and psychological frames. So those are some of the basic things you can look for that we would always tell our parents to pay close attention to that.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So next question we have for Ebony. So Ebony, one of our attendees said that you mentioned that the importance of grades and extracurricular activities for college admissions. So in the midst of COVID, and it's becoming just really hard for some of our students to be able to participate in extracurricular activities, how would you suggest parents look for opportunities for their children to be able to engage in those type of activities, but still be safe, but showcase to the colleges that they're being active outside of the classroom?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say all of the information that I gave was kind of for a pre-COVID world, or eventually, what our new normal will look like. So colleges understand this. They understand that your students' extracurricular activities are going to look different and that they can't just stay after school and, go to the yearbook meeting. And so I would say, like, I wouldn't be too worried about pushing your student into something that might be unsafe or that you might be uncomfortable with, and just know that colleges understand this. That being said, if there are, a lot of schools still do have some sort of meetings that are happening. And so even if it's on Zoom, if the students can stay and go to their whatever sort of meeting it is on Zoom, like those are still things that they can put on their college application. And schools are working really hard to continue to keep students engaged and motivated and excited. And so see what your school is doing, because they probably are doing something. And if you have the capacity, your students have the capacity to get involved, then over Zoom is just fine.
And can I add something?
Sure, please, Ingrid.
I'd like to add also that there's, the extracurricular is not just limited to what happens at the school. It could be something you do with your churches. A number of people are doing things at church online, and also in their own family, taking leadership roles in their own family, because parents are working full time. So if you're the older sibling, help making sure your younger brothers or sisters are on task with their homework. That really demonstrates a lot of initiative on the part of a student who is really trying to develop an academic resume for college.
Thanks for sharing that. That's a really good idea and very creative way to showcase a student's interest by giving back to their community, participating in something that they're interested in, but at the same time, showing that they are able to do something and be active. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you to the both of you. So next question is for Benicia. So one of our attendees asked, are school districts who have returned to in-person school replacing virtual school with what was shared as homeschool and independent learning? So would you be able to address that or go on more in depth around that topic?
Yes, a lot of districts right now are giving the option for independent study, whereas last year, the majority of districts for all traditional school had the distance learning option, in which you had a live teacher on screen. You were still with your traditional school. So if it was your high school, you still had the high school teachers. You logged in during different periods. You saw your teacher, and you would have an LMS like Google Classroom where you received assignments and submitted assignments. This year, with the new legislation where students can go back in person, right now, the majority of districts have the option. You go in person, and if you can't go in person, you would go into an independent study as the option, which is why we have increased more synchronous time for the new AB 130 bill. Assembly.
Yeah. AB 130, I think that's going to be an important bill for all of us to look into and really understand not only what it is, but how will it impact us, specifically for the parents of children, just trying to figure out, okay, how does this affect me? Which I know is not something that we all typically do, looking up legislation and what it means. But it seems like this is just a reminder we need to pay attention to what our politicians are doing and what legislation is being passed and how it affects us from day to day, and how we can be proactive in taking a stance and trying to figure out how we can best handle those types of situations. So let's see, trying to see if we have any other questions in the chat. Let's see. So one other question that we received in the chat for Mr. Brown. So, if the question is, if our child is not feeling very comfortable about opening up to parents about their mental health issues, how do you suggest we connect them to the appropriate resources without making them feel bad that they are struggling?
Oh, that's a very good question. And anyone else, feel free to jump in. But I've had this situation a couple times. And what I would do, I would refer the student, or I would tell the parent to have the student talk to like the counselor. Most of my experience has been in high school. So we use our counseling staff to really be that support system for our students. They can also talk, again, like I said earlier, to teachers as well. And then sometimes you can have your child's friend, the mature ones, kind of talk to them to kind of help them move towards getting help if they're struggling mentally. So it's the people that they have those relationships with that can support them, but also guide them to the proper resources. And the counselors and teachers can do that very well.
Thank you for that. It seems like mental health is a very important topic, and it's come up quite a few times during this conversation. So what I would encourage you all, keep that in mind, that as we sort of highlighted during the beginning of this webinar, we did showcase that stay tuned. We will have a session where we are going to talk about mental health. So we'll be able to focus a little bit more as to destigmatizing mental health, what resources are available, how to look for the signs and symptoms and all that. So we will delve into that a lot deeper later on. Thanks again for answering that important question. So one other question that we received from the audience is, I know I'll leave this open to anyone who wants to answer this, because I know we have a number of people who could answer it. So it's about HBCUs versus non-HBCUs. So for those who don't know what that acronym is, that's historically Black colleges and universities. So if you think of Howard, Spelman, Clark, Atlanta, do not at me if I did not mention your HBCU, because there's over 100. So just please, okay? Okay, so with that, what factors would you say would help a parent direct their child to best understand and help them learn about these different schools? I hope I said that right. Yeah, so that's open to anyone to answer the question, anyone on our panel.
There are a number of virtual tours you can take online. When we get back to normal, you can do college visits. You can talk to alumni. A number of large cities have alumni that are stationed in your particular city, and they hold workshops, presentations, and they're willing to talk to you about their experience and what the difference, the pros and cons are between being at a PWI versus a HBCU college, and what some of the things that you will be able to get. So I would say, you know, connect with that school, write to the school and find out who's in your local area and who can provide you information, because information is power.
I agree. Information is power. Anyone else want to chime in, share their thoughts, advice, tips around that in terms of differences between the two, pros and cons maybe?
I can add to that. I think HBCUs, there are so many different HBCUs in different locations and have different cultures. And so this kind of is an extension of what I was saying earlier, but once it's safe to do so, if you can go visit different HBCUs, I really recommend that. It's really different to be at Howard in DC than it is to be in Atlanta, than it is to be in Alabama or Maryland. And so there's not just one HBCU experience. And so if that's something your student is interested in, and I didn't know about them in high school, honestly, growing up in the Inland Empire just wasn't something that we talked about. So I'm happy that we're having this conversation. But yeah, and someone also mentioned there's the Black College Expo. So go to that if it's safe to do so and you can go visit, do that. But really, I would say, see what it's like for your student to be on that campus and experience what it's like to be surrounded by really Black excellence, and see if that's something they're excited about.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was a very good point. HBCUs there's over 100 of them, and they're located in so many states, from Texas, Maryland, Alabama, Florida. So there's a lot of them. So while you parents are considering UCI as well as HBCUs, just keep in mind all those different factors and what's best for your child, so that way they can advance themselves as they pursue their college career and their careers beyond as professionals. So we have time for just one more question. If there's any other questions out there, otherwise we will just move on. I'm not seeing any. So what I'll do is I'll just end with this one last question, which is something that it kind of came up a little bit in one of the presentations for our panelists, and I don't remember who it was specifically, but nonetheless, it's this idea of, here you are as the parent, right? you may find out that, hey, your student is getting into trouble. They're not doing so well in the classroom. So your child tells you, hey, you know what, my teacher doesn't like me. They don't like me. And you talk to the teacher and the teacher says, well, your child is being disruptive, right? And so now you're in the middle. Who do you believe? You may think, I'm gonna believe the teacher because they're the authority figure. Whatever they say is the truth. But then it's your child. Your child is telling you, no, my teacher does not like me. They're intentionally saying that I'm not doing well, but it's not. They're saying that I'm not performing well. I'm okay. I'm learning. It's just, I'm bored. I already understand it. And so there's all these things that are happening. So this is for anyone in the panel. How can we address that position where we're in the middle and we're not sure what to do? Believe the teacher, believe the child. Anyone want to weigh in?
I guess I'll go. I would say as a parent and an advocate for countless students that aren't mine personally, I would investigate it. I would talk to the teacher. And also I tell students and their parents all the time, the teacher is not getting paid to like you. She's getting paid to teach you a certain discipline. And as we progress through life, there's going to be people we interact with that we just don't vibe with or they don't like us. So the earlier they learn how to work with people who may not be able to, like them or, adore them, as long as they're treating them fairly and they're teaching and doing what they're supposed to, I think that's the minimum you can expect from a teacher. But as a parent, you have a gut as a parent, and when your child is telling you something. So you can also visit the classroom, you can sit in the classroom, you can talk to the teacher, you can do all those things to just try to figure it out yourself. But I would say as a parent, trust your gut, but also do your homework, do your investigation, and teach our kids early that everybody is not going to embrace your Black brilliance and be good with that.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I appreciate you sharing that. And then someone mentioned in the chat, trust but verify. Just know that, okay, maybe, right now we're operating with three perspectives, three stories. There's a teacher story, there's a student story, and then there's a truth. So now here you are as a parent, you need to figure out, discern what's happening here. But more importantly, just thinking about what's in the best interest of the child and try and support them through that situation. So thank you for sharing that perspective. So like I said, that was the last question. Thank you again to the panel. Again, I know we covered a lot, but I do really appreciate your participation, sharing your expertise, your tips, your guidance, your advice. I know everyone in the chat, I kept seeing all the comments. Everyone was just appreciative of just sharing your thoughts and your background. So thank you again for that. So what we'll do now is we will pivot over to Kahoots. So I'll turn it over to you, John, to see if we can get that going.
Okay, thanks again everyone for being here. And we're going to play a game called Kahoots. And if you've never played before, it's a lot of fun. So I'm learning, and fortunately I'm smart enough to surround myself with people like Sandra and Arnicio who are going to help walk me through this in case I get it wrong. So what you need to do, I believe, is log on to kahoots.com, correct?
I'm going to pull up the link so allow folks to see. Everyone can see where to log in. It's kahoot.it.
And everyone's going to play, excluding the panelists, I believe.
And our board members.
And we have 3 $25 gift certificates to Amazon for the top 3 winners. And it's based on time and correct answers. So.
Okay.
And do you want to share your screen, Sandra? You want me to share mine?
I'm going to, I was going to share the link.
You can put the link in the chat.
So everyone can see it. Do you want me to share my link for the game?
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to do yours? And
okay, I will go.
Eventually ahead. I will learn this.
No problem. Let me go ahead and do that now.
And we're going to ask that you use your, and Arnesia, you're going to help correct me if I'm wrong, you use your actual name, correct?
That is, use your actual name for this so that we'll know. And once you are done, we'll ask the winners to put their email address in the chat for us.
Your email address, and we'll also, and the Alumni Association will send you the $25 gift card, and we'll also need your name, email address, and phone number so we get everything correct. So please make sure if you're a winner that you send that to us, and we'll send you the game ID. I see Darlene has asked for the game ID, and we're going to get you that shortly, Darlene.
If we could type the game ID in the chat. Okay, thank you.
All right. So
We have
here is
everyone
the
in?
game pin. So if you can, go to kahoot.it, type in the game pin so we can get started and get playing the game.
Doing it.
Come on, those on the line, log in so you can play.
Oh,
We'll give them a few more minutes, maybe. Can we do that?
hold on one second. Shoot, hold on one second. I was trying to manage multiple windows at once. My apologies. Let me restart it. All right, there is the new pin. So I apologize for everyone who was trying to log in with the previous one.
All right, Jeffrey, come on.
I see Brad, Carlisle, Juanita, all out there. Log in. Darlene, thank you. Mark, Miss Butler. I know we have more than 4 people that are going to play for. You're muted, Sandra.
I was going to say just a few seconds left. All right, so it looks like we're going to get started. All right, let's see. The best educational resources include, remember, pick your answer as quickly as possible. You get points for selecting the correct answer, the most points for selecting the right answer the fastest. So far, we have 3 answers. All right, correct answer was Council of African-American Parents. And we have Margaret in the leaderboard. All right, come on, everyone, catch up. True or false question. You can earn a bachelor's degree at a community college. True or false? All right, that was false.
That's
Margaret
true.
James.
You can get at Mount SAC, you can get a BA. At Mount SAC Community College, you can get a bachelor's.
Yeah, false with the caveat. You can at few community colleges.
All right, real college planning begins at 12th grade. True or false? All right, false. So who is in the lead? All right, Dr. Darlene. Oh, it's pretty close with Jeffrey T, just a few points shy. All right, COVID-19 has caused more deaths, caused many people to reprioritize, exposed inequities in an already flawed educational system, or all of the above. All right, all of the above. Is Dr. Darlene still in the lead? Uh-oh, Jeffrey T is at the top now. Okay. All right, charter schools have selective admissions. True or false? False. All right, Jeffrey. All right, magnet schools are private schools. Is this true or false? All right, so that was false. Okay. When is the best time to start preparing for college? Does anyone remember this part of the presentation? Because this was definitely mentioned. All right, it's never too early to start preparing. Everyone got that right. All right, Jeffrey's still in the lead. We have a few more questions left. Who does the CDC recommend wear masks in schools? All right, everyone got that right. It's all of the above. Got the answers in quick. All right, Jeffrey's still in the lead. All right, just a couple more. Bullying at school should be reported to which person or people at the school? All right, parent, teacher, counselor, administrator. Good job, everyone. All right, Jeffrey is still in the lead with just one question left. The best advocate for your student is, I have a feeling everyone knows this answer. All right, parent. All right, good job, everyone. So who is our leaders? Okay. So we have Jeffrey T coming in third, and oh, that went by really fast. Okay.
Shoshana, I think it was. Shoshana M. So if you three, Jeffrey, Shoshana, and Darlene can place your email address in the chat, we will have the UCI Alumni Association reach out to you.
All right, great. Thanks everyone for playing along. Hope you enjoyed that game and reinforced some of the things that we talked about today. So thank you for your participation. And I just hope that you all enjoyed this presentation, learned something along the way, and you're able to not only take it in, but you're able to apply it to the things that you do every day to support the children in your lives. So thank you again for your time. I'll turn it over to one of my colleagues on the team here to close us out.
And again, we just want to say thanks on behalf of the board and the UCI Black alumni. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming and attending today. We know it was a long morning. You have a lot of places you could have been, but we appreciate you spending the time here with us. And we want to say a special thanks also to all our panelists. You guys were excellent. A lot of good information disseminated. This is being recorded, and the recording will be available probably about the middle of next week, if I remember correctly, and we'll make sure we send it out to everyone. So again, thanks to all our panelists and thanks to everyone for participating. We are doing this again. Our next topic is on mental health, and the date is October 23rd. And then we're off until the first of the year, and we're coming back with financial literacy and home ownership. So please share this. This is open to any and everyone. You do not have to be an alumni to attend. It is open to students, parents, friends, family, community members. And again, once again, last but not least, a very special thanks to our distinguished assistants, our distinguished hosts today, Miss Arnesia Bryant and Miss Sandra Rosenfeld. Awesome job, both of you guys. And thank you. You guys are wonderful. So with that, we want everyone to have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. And I think the panelists, we're going to stick around for a few minutes and do a quick wrap up. And that's it. So everyone, have a great day. Have a great weekend. And thanks for your support. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Zot, zot, zot.